When the whisper of God is described as a personal call, it invites the listener into a moment of sacred intimacy that most people overlook in the noise of daily life. There are seasons when you feel like you are drowning in responsibilities, surrounded by loud voices, pressured by expectations, and overwhelmed by silent battles. Yet in those exact moments when life is the noisiest, God doesn't always respond with a roar. He doesn't always shake the mountains or split the sky. Instead, he chooses the softness of a whisper, because a whisper requires closeness, and closeness is what he desires with you. A whisper means he is not distant, not unreachable, not ignoring you. It means he is leaning in close enough to speak gently, close enough for his breath to touch your soul. This personal call is not random, it is deliberate. God does not whisper to crowds, he whispers to individuals. That means in all the billions of people in the world, he has taken a moment to call your name. There is something powerful about being called personally. It tells you that you matter, that you are seen, that you are known. Many times you may feel invisible, unimportant, or forgotten because life has a way of making people feel small. People overlook you. Circumstances overwhelm you. Failures weigh heavily, but God's whisper breaks that lie. His voice reaches into the hidden, quiet places of your soul and reminds you that you are not just another face in the crowd. You are chosen, unique, and deeply significant to him. The whisper is his way of saying, I see you, I know where you are, and I have not forgotten your name. When God whispers your name, he is acknowledging everything you've survived, every tear you've cried, every silent prayer you whispered into your pillow, and every moment you felt like giving up but still held on. A whisper also means that the message is meant specifically for you. It cannot be confused with someone else's direction, someone else's journey, or someone else's calling. It is tailor-made for your situation, your pain, your questions, your destiny. God knows how to speak to you in a way that reaches the exact place you've been guarding. He knows the fears you don't talk about, the dreams you no longer voice, and the wounds you try to hide. His whisper goes past the surface and touches what your heart tried to bury. This personal call becomes a gentle awakening, a stirring that tells you something is shifting, something is changing, something is being prepared for your life. The whisper is also a sign that God is guiding you towards something deeper. Loud moments can get your attention, but whispers engage your spirit. They make you lean in, pause, reflect, and listen carefully. And sometimes that pause is what saves you from going down the wrong path. It's what redirects you when you're aimlessly moving forward. It's what comforts you when you're hurting but pretending to be strong. It's what strengthens you when your faith feels fragile. When God whispers your name, he is inviting you into alignment, intimacy, and clarity. That whisper is the beginning of a shift that you may not fully understand yet, but you can feel it calling you from the inside out. Many people spend their lives waiting for big, dramatic signs from God, lightning in the sky, dreams that shake the soul, words that thunder through the atmosphere. But the truth is, the most powerful signs often come quietly. The stirring you feel in your heart, the restlessness that won't go away, the sudden awareness that something is shifting inside you. These are not random sensations. The whisper you feel is the very sign you've been asking God for. When life gets overwhelming, it's easy to beg for loud answers because you think loud means clear. But God often chooses the whisper because He wants your focus, not your fear. He wants your spirit to awaken, not just your emotions. And sometimes the softest nudge from heaven carries more direction than the loudest storm. People ask for confirmation all the time. They want a sign about their purpose, their relationships, their battles, their decisions. They want to know if they're moving in the right direction, if God has heard their prayers, if their tears have meant something. What they don't realize is that the whisper within, that quiet pull toward prayer, that gentle reminder to pause, that sudden moment when your heart feels unusually tender, is God responding. It's His way of saying, I heard you, I am here, pay attention. The whisper doesn't come to overwhelm you, but to anchor you. It doesn't come to confuse you, but to bring clarity. And when you learn to recognize that whisper as a divine sign, your entire perspective changes because you stop looking for God externally and start recognizing Him internally. The trouble is that noise makes people miss signs. The noise of fear, doubt, stress, responsibilities, old wounds, and expectations from others can drown out what God is trying to say. That's why the whisper becomes so significant. It cuts through the noise, not by overpowering it, but by inviting you to quiet your soul. The whisper becomes a holy interruption. You're going about your day, and suddenly you feel something unusual, a pull to pray, an urge to reflect, a moment where everything inside slows down. That is the sign. That is heaven tapping your spirit. That is God inviting you to step into alignment with what He is preparing. And because the whisper is gentle, you cannot mistake it for coincidence. Coincidence fades. God's whisper grows stronger the more you lean into it. You may not hear actual words, but something deep inside you knows that this moment is sacred, different, purposeful. It feels like your heart is being called to attention. It feels like God is saying, stop searching outside. The answer is already within. And once you recognize that the whisper is a sign, prayer becomes a response instead of a ritual. You no longer pray out of fear, you pray out of connection. You no longer beg for direction, you begin to receive it. The whisper then transforms your confusion into understanding and your hesitation into confidence. For many people, the whisper appears right after discouragement, right after heartbreak, right after disappointment, because that is when you are listening the most. When you are humbled, tired, or emotionally drained, your spirit becomes sensitive, and in that sensitivity, God speaks. The whisper becomes both comfort and confirmation. It reminds you that heaven hasn't been silent. You just needed a quieter heart to recognize the sign you've been waiting for. Stopping and praying when you sense God's whisper is more than a suggestion. It is an act of alignment with the divine. Life moves fast, filled with distractions, responsibilities, and constant noise, and it is easy to ignore the subtle promptings of your spirit. Yet, prayer is the key that opens the door between where you are and where God wants you to be. It is in those moments of pause that your heart, mind, and soul are able to connect with God's purpose for your life. Prayer is not just a list of requests or a routine habit. It is a powerful tool of surrender and clarity. When you stop to pray, you are creating space for God to enter your life in ways that circumstances alone cannot provide. You are acknowledging that His wisdom, strength, and timing are greater than your own. It is through this act of intentional pause that the whisper becomes a guiding voice instead of just a fleeting feeling. Prayer allows you to release control and step into faith. Often you may feel overwhelmed, anxious, or uncertain, trying to solve problems with your limited understanding. The whisper of God draws you into a different rhythm, one where listening takes precedence over speaking, where surrender takes precedence over struggle. When you stop to pray, you are admitting that you cannot handle everything alone, and you are opening the door to divine intervention. This moment of humility transforms fear into courage and confusion into clarity. It is in this sacred pause that God can reorder your thoughts, redirect your steps, and restore your strength. Prayer is the conduit through which the whisper moves from being a gentle suggestion into actionable guidance for your life. Prayer also aligns your heart with God's purpose. Many times you may pursue paths or make decisions based on impulse, fear, or societal pressure without truly understanding God's plan. The whisper acts as a signal to pause, and through prayer, you tune your spirit to recognize His guidance. In that quiet alignment, distractions lose their power and clarity emerges. You begin to discern what is truly essential, what aligns with your calling, and what is merely noise. Prayer sharpens your spiritual senses, allowing you to navigate life with intention and purpose. It transforms the whisper from an abstract feeling into a practical force that shapes your decisions and actions. Furthermore, prayer is a bridge between weakness and strength. Life's burdens can leave you drained, discouraged, and spiritually fatigued. But prayer is where divine strength meets human vulnerability. The whisper calls you to this bridge, inviting you to exchange your limitations for God's empowerment. It is in these moments of connection that your spirit is fortified, your faith is renewed, and your soul is lifted. By stopping to pray, you honor the whisper and step into a rhythm where divine guidance and personal action converge, setting the stage for breakthroughs, healing, and transformation that would not be possible otherwise. God's whisper carries more than just a message. It carries power, restoration, and breakthrough. Many people underestimate the significance of that gentle nudge because it is quiet, subtle, and easy to overlook. Yet, the softest voice from heaven can transform lives in ways that the loudest shouts cannot. The whisper is designed to reach the deepest, most hidden places of your heart, the places where pain, fear, and past failures have settled. It speaks directly to the wounds you have carried silently, the burdens you have been trying to bear alone, and the cycles that seem impossible to break. When you respond to the whisper, you open the door to God's power flowing into your life. That power is not distant or abstract. It is active, personal, and life-changing. It restores what life has drained, lifts what circumstances have crushed, and releases what has been delayed but not denied. Restoration is at the core of what God's whisper accomplishes. Life can leave you fragmented, tired, and discouraged, yet the whisper carries the divine touch that repairs the broken pieces of your heart. It reminds you that nothing is beyond God's ability to mend. Even when situations seem hopeless, when relationships are strained, or when your own faith feels weak, the whisper is a gentle invitation to trust that God can make all things new. Restoration is not always instantaneous, but the whisper assures you that the process has begun, that divine intervention is already at work behind the scenes, and that the outcome will bring healing and renewal. It is the quiet assurance that even the most difficult chapters of your life are being rewritten by God's hand. The whisper also brings breakthrough. Many people feel stuck in circumstances that repeat themselves, cycles of disappointment, or seasons of stagnation. The whisper is God's way of saying that change is imminent, that you are on the verge of a shift, and that new opportunities are being prepared for you. It challenges the limitations you have accepted, confronts the fears that have held you back, and disrupts the patterns that no longer serve your purpose. Breakthrough does not always happen on your timetable, but the whisper signals that the divine plan is in motion. It stirs your faith, ignites hope, and pushes you to move in alignment with God's timing. Beyond restoration and breakthrough, the whisper opens doors that seem permanently closed. These doors may represent opportunities, relationships, or callings that you have long desired. God's whisper guides you toward them even when the path is unclear or obstacles appear insurmountable. It carries divine wisdom, direction, and empowerment to navigate life's challenges and move into the fullness of His purpose. By paying attention to the whisper and responding in prayer and action, you allow God's power to transform your weakness into strength, your limitations into possibilities, and your trials into testimonies. The whisper is not just a message. It is a divine agent of change, a source of healing, and the spark that initiates breakthroughs that can reshape the course of your life. God whispers because He is close, not distant. Often, people expect God to make His presence known through grand displays or dramatic interventions, but the truth is that God's nearness is most often revealed in quiet intimacy rather than in overwhelming spectacles. A whisper is a sign of closeness. It shows that He is right there, attentive to your heart, aware of your struggles, and concerned with your well-being. When life feels chaotic, when storms rage around you, and your spirit feels weak, the whisper reminds you that you are not alone. God is not a distant observer of your pain. He is leaning in, drawing near, and speaking softly to guide you. His closeness is a comfort, a reassurance that even when circumstances seem unbearable, His presence surrounds you, protects you, and sustains you. This whisper is more than just a gentle sound. It is an invitation to intimacy. God whispers because He desires a personal relationship with you, one that goes beyond rituals, obligations, or public displays of faith. He whispers because He wants your attention, not your distraction. He whispers because He wants your heart to respond, not just your words. The closeness reflected in His whisper allows you to feel His guidance, discern His will, and experience his peace in the midst of uncertainty. It is in this quiet connection that true understanding and spiritual growth occur. The whisper is a reminder that God values depth over noise, relationship over spectacle, and presence over performance. God's nearness through the whisper also conveys his care and attentiveness. Life can make you feel insignificant, overlooked, or forgotten, but the whisper communicates something profound. You are seen, you are known, and you are cherished. He knows the struggles that no one else sees, the battles that are hidden behind smiles, and the prayers that are spoken in silence. The whisper is his way of reaching into those hidden places, reassuring you that nothing escapes his notice. It is a signal that your life matters to him and that he is actively involved in your journey. Even when it feels like the world is indifferent or hostile, the closeness implied in the whisper also brings guidance. When God is near, he directs, corrects, and leads in ways that are personal and precise. Unlike general advice or external influences, the whisper reaches the specific needs of your heart. It points you toward decisions, actions, and attitudes that align with his purpose for your life. It does not overwhelm you with instructions or demands. Instead, it gently steers you in the right direction, often through subtle insights, impressions, or convictions that awaken your spirit. The whisper allows you to hear God's voice clearly because he is close enough to communicate directly with your inner being. Finally, the whisper embodies reassurance and hope. In moments of doubt, fear, or despair, the closeness of God communicated through the whisper reminds you that you are not abandoned. You are held, supported, and guided by a presence that is intimate, attentive, and loving. God whispers because he is near, because he cares, and because he wants you to know that no matter how difficult life becomes, you are never alone. In that whisper, his nearness becomes your anchor, your comfort, and your source of strength, proving that sometimes the quietest voice is the most powerful. When you respond to God's whisper with prayer, something extraordinary happens. The whisper transforms from a subtle nudge into a force of breakthrough. Many people hear the whisper but do not act on it, thinking it is insignificant or imagining it will pass. Yet prayer is the bridge between hearing and receiving, between the gentle prompt of God and the tangible results that follow. It is in the act of praying that the whisper becomes active, alive, and effective in your life. Prayer is not merely a formality, it is a spiritual response that aligns your heart, mind, and actions with God's purposes. When you engage in prayer after sensing the whisper, you are acknowledging the call, inviting divine intervention, and positioning yourself to receive the blessings, guidance, and transformation that God has prepared. Prayer amplifies the power of the whisper because it activates faith. A whisper may be faint, but prayer demonstrates your willingness to trust in what you cannot yet see. It turns the quiet stirring of the Spirit into an intentional conversation with the Creator, a dialogue that invites clarity, direction, and empowerment. Through prayer, you express surrender and dependence, acknowledging that God's wisdom and timing are greater than your own understanding. This act of faith allows the whisper to evolve into more than just a feeling. It becomes a dynamic agent of change, capable of redirecting your life, breaking chains and opening doors that previously seemed closed. Prayer is the channel through which the divine intention behind the whisper flows into reality. Responding to the whisper through prayer also strengthens your spiritual sensitivity. Life is full of distractions, pressures, and conflicting voices, and without intentional communication with God, it is easy to miss His guidance. Prayer sharpens your discernment, allowing you to distinguish between divine direction and mere human desire. It turns the whisper into a clear, guiding voice that leads you toward the right choices, the right mindset, and the right timing. This heightened awareness ensures that the subtle signals God places in your heart are not overlooked, but are acted upon with intention and clarity. Prayer transforms the whisper into tangible outcomes because it engages both divine power and human action. While God provides the guidance, strength, and opportunity, your prayerful response demonstrates alignment and readiness. It is the combination of listening and acting, receiving and responding, that allows the whisper to manifest in your life. Through prayer, the whisper becomes a catalyst for restoration, breakthrough, and transformation. It shifts situations that seemed stagnant, heals wounds that were thought permanent, and brings peace into the chaos that surrounds you. Finally, prayer confirms that the whisper was indeed a divine sign. When you stop, pray, and act, you are entering a sacred rhythm where the spiritual and the practical intersect. The whisper was never meant to be passive. It was meant to awaken, to provoke action, and to bring you closer to God's plan. By responding with prayer, you honor the whisper, participate in your own spiritual growth, and experience the fulfillment of God's promises. What began as a quiet call becomes the starting point for breakthrough, healing, and divine alignment that transforms your life from the inside out.